Howdy folks, thanks for joining me in the brewery for another 5 on Friday. Today's topic, it's not a topic, it's actually a question. Well, let's make the question the topic anyway. Do I need to make a yeast starter? Before we get into it, quick shout out to Little John's Patreons. Thank you for all your support. There's a link down the bottom for Patreon if you're interested in seeing what it's about. If you subscribe to the channel, thank you very much. If not, hit the subscribe button, that way you don't miss out on any videos when they come up. You get something out of the video, give us a thumbs up as well. Anyway, just poured myself a red IPA, the Crimson Corsair, from Bacchus Brewing up there in Brisbane. Been working my way through a big pack of their beers. Looking forward to this fella. Anyway, not here for a beer review. As I said, do I need to make a yeast starter? Now, this is something that's been popping up a lot lately on a few Facebook groups, and I think what it's coming from is coming from a lot of new brewers, and not even necessarily new brewers, but brewers that are sort of, you know, maybe thinking about their yeast a little bit more, looking to make some steps in their brewing. But I think there's been a lot of push from brewers in general on making starters, particularly when people are asking about brews that maybe have stalled or haven't finished out like they would have expected and stuff like that. And a lot of times you seem to get this answer that you need to make a yeast starter, all part of the getting good yeast stills and stuff in. So I think as a result, a lot of brewers are now at the point where they think they need to make a starter for every beer. Obviously, hence the question. There's a simple answer to the question. Do I need to make a yeast starter? Well, no, you don't. Yeah, you don't have to make a yeast starter. But let's just work on the basis that, let's just assume we're talking a 23 litre batch of beer. Somewhere in the realms of a normal sort of starting gravity. Now, let's say 1036 to 1046. You're making a 4 to a 5, low 5% beer. The average sort of beer. And the reality is this can be extended into higher gravities as well. But for the most part, if you're knocking over a fairly straightforward ale, then making a yeast starter is really unnecessary. Yes, you need to pitch 2 packs of yeast, or more depending on what that starting age is, but in that standard sort of range, your 2 packets of dry yeast, whether it be an 05 or a Nottingham or a, doesn't matter. Now, any sort of ale yeast, at 1 gram a litre, 2 packets in that standard batch is going to get the job done no problem. And that's a relatively cost-effective exercise. It's 2 packs at $4 or $5 each. That's $10, top dollar for your yeast in your brew. Not too much of an issue. Where you start having the requirements for a starter, and again it's not necessary, is when you go into lagers and you need to double that initial yeast pitch, or you start going into high gravity ales and again you need a high yeast pitch. That's where your costs start to get progressively higher. And particularly when you're doing lager, if you want to brew a lager at a lager temperature with lager yeast, you want to do it properly, you're suddenly in the realms where you're needing to buy, or need to be pitching, the equivalent of about 4 packets of yeast. Now, the problem compounds because lager yeast costs more than ale yeast does. So you're generally looking, $7 or $8 a pack, even $9 a pack for dry yeast, depending on where you're buying it. So you're talking 4 packets, you're getting up around that $30 mark just for your yeast, if you're just buying dry and pitching it, which of course you can do. There's no problem with you doing that if that's what you want to do. And this is where this sort of misinformation and a bit of misguidedness can come in. You don't need to make a starter. If you're willing to pay the money for dry yeast or even liquid yeast in a high enough quantity that you're pitching an adequate number. The whole point of the starter is to ensure you're pitching adequate cells initially into your beer. So whether it's a 1038 ale or a 1057 Baltic Porter that's going to be brewed at 9 degrees with lager yeast, you've got to get your numbers right. So you need to be running your brew through a yeast pitch calculator. Now I use Brewer's Friend, have done for a long time. Recently I've been using the calculators inbuilt into the Brewfather programming. Typically I've been using Brewfather and it's there, it's just there. Really at this point I've got to a point where I sort of know what I need to be looking at for each different brew, how much I need to be pitching. But you're sitting at home and you're about to put a brew on, before you even starting your brew, you need to be making sure you've got yeast. And realistically, you need to be looking at yeast in advance. When you're designing that recipe and you're getting all your ingredients together, you need to look at your yeast, you need to look at how much you're going to need. Run your recipe through your calculators, run your gravity through a pitch rate calculator and work out how much yeast you actually need. Now there's videos, I've got videos on how much yeast you need and all the rest of it, and I'll put a couple of links up, up the top here. But you need to work out how much yeast you need, and then you need to work out how you're going to achieve those numbers. How am I going to achieve the 180 billion cells, or the 200 billion, or the 360 billion cells of yeast that you need to pitch initially on that brew to ferment, successfully with good flavour, without off flavours, and in appropriate times, all that sort of stuff. If you're doing that when you're setting up your brew, it's one of the first things I do when I'm working at a brew is working out what yeast am I using on this brew. What yeast have I got available? Do I need to be buying yeast? Do I need to be making a starter for this brew I'm doing in advance? Because if you need to make a starter, then you need 3, 4, 5 days before you start actual brew day to get your starter made if you need to make one. But if you're running those numbers and you go, okay, well I need whatever billion cells it is, and I need 2 packs or 3 packs or 4 packs, and you're happy to go and spend the money buying the packets, fine, go for it. It's going to be fine. Starters are beneficial, and in my opinion, and from my experience, you will get a slightly better result. It's all part of that small puzzle of building up a better beer. But make that individual decision. If you're going to make a starter, give yourself time to do it. If you're not going to make a starter, spend the money and get the right amount of yeast. I've got a prime example just today. Well, not just today, but recent brew, Atlas base malt trial. When I did the Voyager Atlas, I brewed a 12 litre batch at 12 degrees. I pitched 1 packet of S23. I should have pitched at least 2 packets. At least 2 packets on that brew. I didn't, I just pitched 1. I had 2 packets here. Matty Ursak had given me a few packets through the Hop Wizard, link below. And I had 2 packs of S23 and I thought, I'll just use 1 and I'll keep the other one, I'll make a starter for it for later down the track and stick it in the yeast bank. And off it went. I've tasted that beer today. It's 2.5 weeks in the keg and it is riddled with diacetyl. Diacetyl, if you want to pronounce it that way. That beer is not good. It did not have enough yeast pitch to deal with the ferment that it was having to do. And so right now I've paid the price. I've pulled that keg out. I've got it sitting in a ferment fridge at 22 degrees, hoping I can encourage that yeast to burn off that bloody, the incredible amount of butterscotch notes that are in that beer. I don't like my chances. I think that beer's going to end up getting tossed out. So I've wasted, kilos of grain, time, effort, a brew day, 2 weeks in the beer fridge, 2 weeks in the, in the keg fridge. So much stuff is wasted because I just didn't take the time to make sure I had my bloody numbers right and got my pitch right. So no one is immune to stuffing up a brew by not pitching properly. So you can't get blasé. That's exactly what I did. I thought that should be right. Don't worry about it. It'll get the job done. It got the job done. It just didn't do it very good. Didn't do it good at all. So the whole point of this channel is the pursuit of better beer. And I did absolutely the wrong thing and paid the price. Don't do it at home. Don't pay the price. Do not do the wrong thing. This whole subject is more about making sure you're pitching the right amount of yeast than it is about the way you actually pitch it. Dry, rehydrated, starter, fresh slurry off a previous batch. Doesn't matter how you get your yeast as long as you get the right amount of cells in the first place. Get all the other stuff done right, knock your yeast in, you're gonna come out with good beer. You want to stuff around, cut corners, invariably you're gonna get bad results. So anyway, guys, ladies, brewers, that's today. Long weekend. Have yourself a lovely long weekend. I'm down the coast with the family. Grandson's 2nd birthday.
Papa, coming on the weekend. Woohoo!
So hope you all have yourself a lovely time. Oh, Queen Liz, I know it's not actually technically your birthday, but have a bloody good one anyway. Everybody else, questions and comments down the bottom as always. Thank you to the supporters. Links are all there to all the things you could possibly want. But anyway, that's me. So till I see you again, brewing beer, drinking beer, or talking beer, good brewing.